Hi, and welcome to Step by Step Startup, the podcast where I simplify the path to starting and scaling your AI business. I'm Matthew Ockwell, a published entrepreneur and product leader with over a decade experience building software. In today's episode, I'll share 4 steps you need to know before you build your next big idea. So let's dive in. Have you ever heard of the phrase, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? It's motivational, sure. But in the startup world, most of the shots you take will miss. In fact, 90% of all AI startups will fail, usually because they're asking the wrong questions, building the wrong solutions, or clinging to ideas that just won't work. But here's the twist. Failure isn't the enemy. It's simply the process. The key to avoiding those statistics is learning how to get it wrong first. Let's explore how with step 1. Step 1, embrace failure as your best teacher, not your personal critic. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." What I love about this quote isn't just the resilience, it's the recognition that failure is how you learn what works. I myself have grappled with the feeling of spending countless hours and money on an idea only for it to fail, so I know how demoralizing it can be. That's why step 1 is retuning how you think about failure and detaching your self-worth from it. I don't know you, but I know you're smart, creative, and you have what it takes right now. The fact that you are spending time to watch this video so you can learn and retool yourself to be a successful entrepreneur already shows you have what it takes. That being said, I also know how bumpy the road ahead can be. And I want you to succeed. So keep these points in mind when you hit a rough patch. Separate your personal identity from your ideas and view failure as natural feedback, not a reflection of your worth. You actually need to reframe failure as valuable data. It's simply information about what works and what doesn't. It's helping you learn and improve without taking it personally. For example, instead of thinking, I failed because I'm not good enough, reframe it to, this approach didn't work. What can I learn from it? A failed idea doesn't mean you failed. It means the approach you are testing at that time didn't work. In the startup world, we call this a pivot. Yes, this happens so often, there's a common industry term for it. So even the huge tech giants understand that failure comes with the territory. Create small wins for yourself by acknowledging what you've gained from each failure, whether it's new insights, improved skills, or clarity on what not to do next time. If you spend a week talking to potential customers only to find that they hate your idea, document what they hate, write down why they hate it, and learn from it. That's a win. Imagine what would happen if you actually built that idea rather than talking to them only to discover the same result. It's a win to learn about this stuff as quickly as possible. And remember, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a necessary step toward success. Step 2, obsess about your customers, not your product. Too many founders fall in love with their product instead of their customer. But here's the harsh truth. The people who are going to buy your product, they don't care about it. They care about solving issues that they have or finding opportunities that will please them. And the only way to figure that out is to talk to them and gather data. For example, before Spanx became a billion-dollar empire, Sarah Blakely didn't begin with a product. She started with the customer. She was personally frustrated by the lack of flattering shapewear, but she realized assumptions wouldn't cut it. Instead, she spent hours talking to women about their struggles and observing shoppers in the stores. She also spoke with sales associates, uncovering consistent complaints about discomfort, poor fit, and lack of versatility. These insights became the foundation for Spanx, addressing real customer needs and turning a small idea into a billion-dollar empire. I have an entire video on customer discovery and building a persona. But here's what you can do to get started right now. Talk to 5 people in your target audience this week. Ask them one simple question. What frustrates you the most about a product or service in their life? Use open-ended questions and don't be afraid of silence. Give them time to think. Watch how they solve their problems today. Spend time observing, whether it's in online forums, social media, or even in real-life interactions. Customers don't always recall everything when asked directly. So another way to gather valuable insights is to simply watch them use the product or service and notice when they hit a stressful or time-consuming moment, or the product simply isn't working for the application they're trying to use it for. Write down a one-sentence problem statement. For example, as a freelance photographer, I spend hours each week creating and managing invoices because I don't have an easy, automated solution that isn't expensive. Once you've done this, take your problem statement and your findings back to your audience for validation. Ask them, does this sound like something you face? Your goal isn't to confirm what you think is true, it's to discover what your customers actually need. Step 3. When you lack resources, creativity is your currency. Think you need funding to build a startup? Think again. Some of the best startups were built with practically no money at all, just a little creativity and a lot of grit. In fact, this approach is so common that there's an industry term for it. It's called bootstrapping. So let me give you an example of bootstrapping. Have you heard of Dropbox? When its founders first came up with the idea for Dropbox, they didn't have funding to build the full product, nor did they have a large marketing budget to promote it. So instead of spending money on development right away, they used a creative and very lean approach. To validate their idea with the market, they created a simple explainer video. Rather than building the actual product itself, they showcased the core concept of Dropbox, an easy way to sync and share files across multiple devices, but it was just in a video. This video was essentially a prototype in itself, and it went viral within the tech community, generating early buzz and attracting potential customers. This creative approach allowed them to gain interest before they ever wrote a single line of code. So here's how to stretch your resources and be as creative as possible. Use free or low-cost tools to validate your ideas. You can create great prototypes without writing a single line of code using apps like Bolt, Canva, Notion, or even Google Workspace. In fact, in 2013, I sold a non-existent mobile app that was built entirely in PowerPoint. Yeah, that happened. Believe it or not, this is more common in the corporate world than you think. Many solutions in a PowerPoint don't even exist in the real world. So building to validate with the tools you already have is more typical than you might assume. If your idea is more of a service, host a free workshop or webinar to gauge interest in your solution and collect real-time feedback. Even if one person shows up, the feedback you'll receive will be invaluable, and you'll actually find someone that is your ideal customer. Barter for skills you don't have. Being creative doesn't mean you have to build the prototypes. You can also be creative and find other people to do the work for you. If you're great at finance or marketing or cooking or just repairing things, but you need design help, for instance, find someone who can trade your experience for theirs. Just like in step 1, separate your personal identity from how your product looks in its early stages. I've seen countless entrepreneurs hesitate to show their prototypes because they think it's not pretty enough. Remember, caterpillars are far from beautiful, but they eventually turn into butterflies. Rather, the goal is to gather user feedback. And years from now, when you're successful, it'll make for a great story. In fact, if it's small enough, you can put it in one of those little light boxes and mount it on the wall. So when you don't have money, when you don't have the resources, your ability to think creatively is the currency that will get you past that hump. Check out this dumpster fire of a website. I built this when I was in college. In fact, this is my fourth pivot I went through. But you know what? It still worked. I paid for my college with this. I got into a Fortune 27 company as a product manager with this. So, especially in the beginning, don't let an ugly product in your mind hold you back. Your goal is not to build a Louis Vuitton purse. It's to gather valuable insights about your customers, the problems that they have, the opportunities they were looking for, and how to find that perfect product market fit. Step 4, build a support system and learn from others. You don't have to do this alone. In fact, you shouldn't. One of the biggest mistakes founders make is isolating themselves, thinking they need to figure everything out on their own. Going back to Dropbox, Drew was the initial founder, but do you know how he found Arash? He posted his Dropbox video online, Arash saw it, thought it was cool, and the rest is history. So Drew's approach of initially measuring if the market even cared about his product not only gave him valuable feedback, but he found an even more invaluable partner to grow his company into what it is today. So here's how you can find a community that will help you grow. Join a founder group or industry community like a Discord server, a Facebook group, Slack channel, or a local meetup. These are gold mines for advice and connections, and they're so easy to find with a simple online search. Ask experienced founders what they wish they knew when they started. One conversation can save you months of trial and error. And in fact, I found that many successful people are more than happy to talk about their success. Imagine that. 3, find an accountability partner. This might be the experienced founder you spoke to, but this person will check in on you weekly, helping you stay on track and push through the challenges that you are going to face. Write a comment in the video description here right now. You have me to collaborate with, and I'm happy to respond. So send your questions my way, and we can iterate through them. In my experience, the most successful entrepreneurs are those who aren't afraid to ask for help. That's why I think joining a community is so important. And it's also why I started Step by Step Startup. Because no single person has all the answers. You will learn faster, fail faster, and succeed faster if you tap into the collective mind of a startup community. And who wants to wait 3 years to be successful when you can do it in 1? Well, that's all I have for this episode. Please check out my other videos where I dive deep into the steps needed to be a successful entrepreneur. I'd obviously love to help you succeed, so write a comment in the descriptions and I'll respond, or come join me at Step by Step Startup. But keep in mind, the journey of building a startup isn't about avoiding failure. It's about looking at failure as a learning point, focusing on learning everything about your customer, leveraging your creative side, and leaning on a community. When you do this, you can avoid becoming one of the 90% that never succeed. Thank you very much for your time. I hope I taught you something, and see you next time on Step by Step Startup.